Hey everybody, and welcome back to the House of Holocrons, Episode 4. Tonight we're going to be talking a bit more about the Andor new trailer and kind of the series in total, and we will be talking about all of the delicious rebel scum and fun rebel dogs, from Wedge Antilles to Luke to Porker. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll just get into it with kind of talking a bit more about Andor. So we just recently did the reaction thing, and we were able to watch that. That was really awesome. Uh, the Andor trailers have done only good things to get me excited. Most trailers, a lot of the time, they they give away too much. I feel like, but Andor's done a really good job of not giving away too much and pacing things out. So I feel like I don't know too much going into the series, but that I'm gonna love the series.
Yeah, I don't think been given too big of a reveal from these trailers so far. We kind of expected to see
Mm-hmm.
because of the timeline and the character. So there wasn't any major surprises, I don't think so far. I mean, we did see, which I liked, we did see a little bit of the Clone Wars influence because it is the big transition.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be able to transition all their resources right away. So I think that's a good touch.
Oh yeah.
So it looked like we saw like some stormtroopers, maybe some Phase 3 clone armor, and we saw some of the clone drop ships. So I mean that makes sense. I mean, I doubt they can't switch all their soldiers and equipment over
And
at
we
a
got to
light
see that
speed.
a little bit in the Bad Batch, which is
Yeah,
another. That was a and that transitional period is actually super interesting because it's really hard to get those kind of stories from that time period because it's a dark ages kind of thing when a lot of stuff is getting suppressed or just downright destroyed or swept under different bureaucratic rugs. It's a
yeah.
crazy time, I'm sure.
I like to see in Bad Batch, and I wonder if we'll see more of that interaction between the clones and the stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Because when we saw that with in Bad Batch, we saw how the stormtroopers, the new stormtroopers, they look highly down on the
Mm-hmm.
clones. So I wonder if we're going to see any clones anymore if they just phase them out completely by the time Andor.
Yeah.
That's very interesting to look at.
I've always really enjoyed what happens with the clones as well because I mean, and this would be the first time getting to see clones in live action for a while, so that would be really awesome and just be a fun.
Minus minus the one clone from Obi-Wan.
Yeah, we do have the clone from Obi-Wan and like the few guys in buckets in the 501st scene, but yeah, it'd be really cool. I think to actually get to see like a battalion or like a mess hall, just something like that again with some clones and troopers kind of separating themselves, and that separation would lead maybe Andor to having his ability to sneak in and like pretend to be an officer or a trooper if everyone else is more divided on clone versus recruit.
Yeah. We'll also maybe see what happened to the clones because I mean we've seen stuff, I mean read about stuff, but we
Mm-hmm.
actually haven't seen fully what happens to all the clones. I mean we get a kind of an idea, but we just don't actually see it happen.
Yeah, and I know with the other the it'd be awesome to see the clones interact with the rebellion because like now that there's no more Jedi in it, would the clones be thinking differently because they still think so much for themselves after Order 66? Is that going to lead to like we have again in Bad Batch we had Hauser who kind of like realized the error of his ways.
Yeah, we started the scene. We see that in the end of the Clone Wars show and Bad Batch, where they started seeing because you'll see at the beginning, we kind of see that in the Clone Wars movie, where the clones are more robotic like. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
hardly any personality, minus the ones, the couple of the commanders.
Yeah.
We see like Cody. And then as we transition, as they started cloning and cloning, I guess the DNA after clone so many times started to mutate slightly. So you started getting
Yeah.
more personality, less more the program. So I imagine these late clones are, well, we see that already with the Bad Batch and stuff. The newest clones already are not fully taking on these
Mm-hmm.
orders immediately, especially since they're already taught individuality and they have names, they have different way they view things. You see that in the later series too.
Yeah.
Um, so I imagine there's probably a lot more clones that defect, and that would be an interesting storyline. We'll see like a couple, maybe like a whole, almost a whole clone battalion or a clone battalion reformed.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see then the Bad Batch. I don't know.
No, that'd be really awesome with a Bad Batch or Andor. I wonder if they're ever going to tie together. Like in the background, we ever get to see like a live action Hunter or something.
I
But
mean, if they do a season two, maybe I feel like in a season one, it might kind of like overshadow
yeah.
Andor. I think it'd be cool to see maybe a reference. I mean, I would love to see it.
Hmm.
But maybe if we do an Andor season two, that'd be cool if we do, see like Hunter, maybe, or one of, like he's not satisfied with what they already did and
Yeah.
he moved on to help out. Kind of like we saw with Boba Fett and during the Mandalorian, I think it was was it
Hmm.
two was it season two or three
Yeah.
when
He
Boba
shows
showed
up.
up?
Right. Yeah. Season 2.
So,
But
so kind of a similar scenario. I mean, heck, even a Rex should still be around at this time because we see him again in the Rebels TV show. So,
well, and that's they are making one of the Black Series figure pipelines is a like what was it indoor deluxe trooper, so you don't know if it's going to be ones in the background or it's going to be him because they showed the picture of him that was old man Rex and the troopers
yeah,
around him. So a lot of us are like, we're like, oh my gosh, they're actually going to give us an old man Rex on the planet Moon, indoor. Like that'd be so cool to have like old Rex in a figure. But that would also just be awesome to see him in Andor. Or if they're gonna make a figure, they usually only make figures for relativity. That's like happening. Oh, that's because this show or because of this appearance.
yeah. If they're gonna include a clone, Rex would probably be the one you could do because everybody knows Rex.
Right.
He's even though he's not the highest rank or he's kind of like the poster child now
Mm-hmm.
for the clones. So
And that'd be really nice for Rebels as well, just kind of showing that because I know that they all eventually ran off and did their own thing to like hide from the Empire, live on their own. But there could be a reason for why that happened, or this could be after Ezra and all of them brought them back. Because I feel like Andor is a bit further into the rebellion, right? It's not like the very very beginning. It seems a little bit.
yeah, it's not the initial. I think they're still. I don't think the rebellion's fully formed yet, and
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. By this time, I think it's still that transition.
Yeah.
I think we're getting into the late, kind of the Rebel season, maybe. I think it's either the end of the Rebel season where they're actually forming the Rebel Alliance,
Yeah.
or starting. Because at the beginning of the Rebel Alliance, this is you're kind of getting on the verge of New Hope at that point. So so I think it's the early stages of
Mm-hmm.
maybe not a full organization yet. Maybe it's just kind of like small splinter groups, kind of like Saw Gerrera, which he
Right.
was known for leading. Probably one of the first early rebel groups, not the first, but one of the first notorious rebel groups, because his intense guerrilla tactics were,
Right.
which
It
even
fit his
then
name.
we even see the reference to him that many of these the rebels don't really take necessarily too kindly with his tactics.
Right. Oh yeah, a lot of rebels took issue with how the casualties that he was willing to rack up, all because he felt like he just lost so much in the war already with his
Yeah.
sister and stuff. That was a
And then,
nice Clone Wars arc with early Saw Gerrera.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, some of it I can understand how he sees it because you bump in this a lot of the civilians that are already helping the Empire out. Maybe a lot of them don't even see the difference between the Republic and the Empire, so they
Yeah.
were already helping them out. So they had a lot of supporters into this, and you see that what we have already seen through other content. So it's really interesting to see. Well, the funny thing with the Rebel Alliance, not to immediately jump into that,
I mean, yeah,
is
that's what we're gonna be talking about the whole time anyway. So
yeah,
might as well just free
the
form.
organization itself. Honestly, never really comes into full strength, and
Yeah.
it always is because it's the galaxy at this point is so big. I mean, it already was, but connected wise.
Mm-hmm.
So there, even we see that post, um, Empire, when we get into the Mandalorian, we see some of the Rebel trying to police the galaxy the best they can with a few
Right.
X-wings,
Yeah.
which is beyond the fact of the Star Destroyers and that the Empire was using. Um, so yeah, uh, the Rebel Alliance is a small cause that a lot of people see as a failing cause, or they just don't want to fight anymore. They're tired of it.
Right. That's one of the things that kind of like, even as a kid and more so almost as an adult, really, I've enjoyed the Rebel Alliance. Like, I might always side a bit more with the Empire or something just because I think it's fun, or like the idea of just like, just look, we're just trying to bring peace, all right? Just follow the rules and you're fine. But the Rebel Alliance always really did seem like the good guys. They were always,
Yeah.
the downtrodden. They were made up mostly a lot of aliens. They were a lot of the species that were being,
Yeah.
subjugated by the Empire.
But typically you would see the men,
Yeah.
human males, mostly white, head the Empire.
Hmm.
The officers, and then we don't really see too many stormtroopers, but majority of them were. And
Yeah.
on the counter side, we saw more female leads. We saw more interspecies um, leads and
Yeah.
characters because the helmets weren't always on, so we got to see a lot more variety, which was great.
Right. And then that's one of the things that I always loved was the General Leia Organa, because like that's Princess Leia is awesome, but General Leia was always like so cool. Even in the sequels, I enjoyed the General Leia. Uh, the Rebel Alliance, though, to me always did have that like hardcore like underground vibe of like, hey man,
Yeah.
we're just happy to be here. We're barely making it. We're barely keeping ourselves together, and like
Well,
they really show you that a lot with the end
well,
of Bad
we
Batch
see.
and stuff.
We see a lot of the transition, honestly, from Leia, Princess Leia to General Leia.
Hmm.
We see that transition of the rebellion, the same, almost the same instance, because when we see the fall of the Death Star, we get a
Yeah,
lot more support through the rebellion. So we get to see where Princess Leia, she's a princess, but she's more at this point, honestly, more of an operative.
yeah,
Which we see that as her in Obi-Wan as a little girl, and we've seen it in books. We know she's not the type of person to sit still,
yeah,
and she can't just be a princess. Not that she's a bad princess. She's just her personality. She wants to get out there.
right,
She wants to do something. She wants to be a hero, and she can't sit still. So we see that in New Hope. We've seen that in other things, and then when we transition to um, the next movie, we see the Rebel Alliance is more of a structured military. We see
hmm,
that at the Battle of Hoth, and Leia's already starting to be a general there, and that's where I think we start seeing the more of a full structured military and organization. And I think the fall of the Death Star really woken a lot of support up, more
yeah,
people joining, more planets joining, because the Mon Calamari was an early big support
yeah,
for the Alliance, which provided most of their navy strength. Um, so that's you see, and you see a lot more than that when we get into the later into the movie. We see the giant navy battles,
yeah.
and we see that also, of course, we see the second Death Star. We see a lot more Mon Calamari naval
I also
support.
always loved it though because with those old Rebel fleets, we actually got to see some of the Hammerhead
Yeah,
design
yeah, yeah.
cruisers. That is all the way from like the old Republic's old Republic. So
Yeah, I'm
that's
glad
fun.
they gave him a fun story.
Yeah.
Which the initial design of them were also the bombers. They made
Hmm.
the bombers originally a clone vehicle. Um, and then yeah, the hammerheads were originally designed to literally ram into other
Yeah.
ships. Which you gotta imagine there had to be until shields got to be way more advanced. There
Yeah.
had to be more of this because that was when we look at our history with naval battles. You saw a lot more of these colliding.
Hmm.
So especially when you have these smaller navies, they're gonna want to collide these giant expensive ships.
Like
So
the Nihil, which are pretty much if anyone knows from like Firefly, the Reavers in Star Wars, the High Republic. That's the Nihil. They just strap all these crazy like things all over their ships. harpoons and cannons and nets. And at first you're like, what's that going to do? And you're like, oh no, that does a lot. If you fire a harpoon through somebody's cockpit of their ship and it can't depressurize, they're done. So it's crazy to like add that sense of like hardcoreness into it. Which again, that's the Rebel Alliance had that like dog
Yeah.
eat dog world where like that was one of the first movies as a kid I remember watching and being like, wait, the good guys went on a journey. The very early on, you see the good guys go on a trip, and they just get destroyed. Only person who makes it back really is like a few of Red Squadron with Luke when they're
Yeah.
going after the first Death Star.
And he only would have made it if it wasn't for Han coming back
Exactly.
at the last second.
So like they were always outmatched, but it was just
Yeah.
the Force, wills its way through Luke always being there, kind of like battle meditation, but not really, and just in general that we have something to die for kind of mentality, whereas the Empire would just throw TIE fighters at the rebels as much as it could. Like I think like the average life expectancy of a pilot in the Empire was what, like 3 days or like 2 missions.
Yeah, the TIE fighters, the vehicle itself didn't have any form of life support. That's why they have the full mouth covering and everything, because they had to,
Yeah,
because they didn't expect most of the TIE fighters to survive. At least
right.
the standard TIE fighter. The advanced TIEs they did. They had because the standard TIEs they don't have any. They just bare bones. They just have the ion engine, which they all had the signature ion engine in the back, and then they have just the big blasters, and they don't have any hyperdrive engines or anything.
Right.
So they meant to just to stick around the larger ships, come out of them, fight, and then go back.
Yeah, like a
As
hive mentality.
yeah, it's typical carrier design.
Mm-hmm.
And it works. I mean, it
Yeah.
works in our world. It's cheaper than because the X-wing price is far more expensive than the TIE fighter.
Which again, I've always
So
loved though that the the manufacturer of the TIE fighter is also the manufacturer of the X-wing, so that guy makes money off of the Rebellion and the Empire.
war profiteering
Yep.
works in every universe.
Yep. The I also like. I think the Rebels really, especially for this time period, George Lucas kind of went out on a limb and really, I think, was, I wouldn't say aggressive, but brave is such a weird word to use. But
Yeah.
he took a lot of chances with the Rebellion, and then being like, oh, we're gonna wear yellow astronaut jackets as part of your flight suits to kind of give you that earthly esque tie. But then we're gonna put this padding and these like fobs on you. It gave them a very like, because of course a lot of this stuff happens around wartime in Vietnam after that, and like all the crap going on. So it almost gave them this like this Vietnam kind of vibe, rebels. It was cool, but it changed a lot of stuff for future rebellion and like future things, because they were organized, but they were not always going to win. They were not well put together. They just bare bones.
I think the idea, because it's the whole idea of the Rebel Alliance. I think the idea was, you see that as the idea of the spark in the galaxy, like Goliath, the big bad that everybody's afraid of, isn't as strong as we think. They do, they spread them out so much, they can only do so much, and so it's to show that hey, a couple guys, a farmer or a farmer's son and a smuggler can take down quite a bit on their own, and this small little navy put from different aspects and that an actual military force at this point can take down the Death Star. They can take down small fleets. What can hey, this planet, you should stand up. So it's the idea of like igniting, like the Empire is not the end all be all.
Right.
Or this shouldn't be the norm. We shouldn't keep taking it the way it is.
Oh, and that's like a big part of what you talked about earlier, though, is how like the Mon Calamari were such a huge part of the rebellion, because they were the first like whole planet to give industry and franchise and money and real big aid to the rebellion. Because before then, like the Empire was suppressing all information about it, of course, or they would call them terrorists, or they would say they're doing this. So like, if they showed up on certain planets, it's kind of like we saw on Obi-Wan with Freck, the mole person. if you showed up on the certain planet where their lives honestly had kind of been improved by the Empire being there, then it was bad to be a rebel person there. Like you were treated like a terrorist, and they would try to like give you away to the Empire. So you really had to
we
be careful. Like,
we,
and
we
yet,
did see quite a bit from Alderaan too.
yeah,
They started getting some support, and that's honestly why Darth Vader ended up targeting Alderaan. It wasn't really
Tarkin and
just
all them, yeah,
yeah. They started sorry, Tarek, thank you, Tarkin. Because it wasn't just to upset her, but also they were starting to support. And Alderaan has a lot of rich families on Alderaan,
yeah,
so getting rid of that financial support
mm-hmm.
really probably put the because it was having Leia as a major support for the Alliance. I'm sure pulled a lot of support from the planet
Yeah,
itself, and I'm sure the negotiations were. I know that they did have a lot of support. So yeah, getting rid of that big bank support from that planet itself
yeah.
uh, was actually quite smart.
Right. It was definitely a smart move. Tarkin doesn't mess around with that kind of stuff.
And it shows that any planet that supports the
Mm-hmm.
Rebel Alliance is we can destroy you anytime we want to.
Right, but
That
then
was the
that's one of those things where it's like where the Empire just grips harder, more things ooze out between your fingertips because they weren't going to deal with that. Then that's when a lot of planets started signing up to the rebels. Was like, oh, these guys are evil. What the heck?
yeah.
They destroyed a whole planet. Um, yeah, of traitors. But like, yeah, you can tell. It's easy to see. Like, no, you just murdered a whole planet to show off that you have a new weapon and to put people in line. It was a show of power. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Some
yeah.
planets followed the show of
Mm-hmm.
power. Some planets said this. Then that's enough's enough. We can't let this continue.
Yeah, and that's when the Mon Calamari really step up and put all this fleet behind everything.
Yeah.
Then that's why you see so many Mon Calamari leading in like games and stuff like that. Like a lot of them are in their own ships and like in that navy. It was a good navy at the time. It was a very
It was
good
one
galactic
of the
navy.
best
Yeah,
outside of the Empire.
yeah,
And the Empire, the lead to fame was the navies with the Star Destroyers were
yeah.
one of the strongest. And just how vast it was. But yeah,
But that's the only thing they really had because again, like really a good X-wing was worth like 25 ties, and a well-trained X-wing pilot could take down the Academy's pilots almost
uh,
no problem. And of course, there's
the
like plot armor.
Empire did have great pilots, and we do
Mm-hmm.
see that. We saw they have very different, but we don't. You don't. Those are a small amount
Mm-hmm.
than the generic Tie Fighter. Tie Fighter is more just mass number.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and like you
and
said, bare bones. They weren't given the best equipment.
most of them don't even have built-in shield generators. And you get to that with some of the rebel ships.
Yeah,
Will have actual shields on them. Um, the typical tie typically didn't have any shield or anything. They just were, like I said, bare bones.
yeah,
They couldn't function if the Star Destroyer got destroyed. Most or any kind of carrier they were with, they pretty much were doomed. They had
right.
no way to take that ship anywhere.
It was very
Unlike the
yeah. The Empire didn't usually come to pick you up.
unlike the X-wing, it didn't require a carrier.
Mm-hmm.
Had its own hyperdrive. Had enough for droid support. So they could, and then you saw that was part of the whole guerrilla hit and run tactics. They could show out of hyperspace in a small squadron, do some damage, and then fly away.
Right.
Where the Empire couldn't do that. Yeah, they had to have those cruisers. So
It was really interesting to see guerrilla tactics in a galactic term. Like
yeah,
they would use certain hyperspace routes and certain like ways of jumping between hyperspace routes to pop in on the Empire, attack, and then go away, and then like pop in from somewhere else, or use evasion tactics. It was that's another part I really loved about the rebellion is how like they really did have to put their best foot forward, which it helped that again, you know, what is it? It's always the saying that like a rebellion is a simple spark of hope, and hope is the big message behind all of Star Wars is hope. So it was really cool though to watch them like show hope to the galaxy, and the galaxy would always somehow return that with like the best badass pilots always joined the rebel squadrons. Because it was just the thing to do, which the force plot armor, however you want to look at it, but it
The,
that dog eat
the
dog mentality really drew the cream of the crop to the
I think
rebels.
the funny thing is a lot of those great pilots that you're mentioning, some of them actually get their flight training initially from the Imperial Flight
Yeah,
Academy.
true. There's a lot of them. We get to know that Han Solo himself
Yeah.
attempted to be in the academy. I think he just got kicked out because he's Han Solo. Uh, let's see. Was it Wedge Antilles? It was
I
also.
believe Wedge.
Yeah, Wedge had his. He
I
was
think
a. Yeah, he was.
didn't Dash
Dash Rendar.
have that?
Yes, but yeah, in Rebels.
He's technically Legends currently,
Yeah,
but um, I believe he was an Imperial pilot to begin with.
yeah. They show a
Um,
lot of really cool stuff in the Rebels series with Ezra in that young academy.
yeah. And then um, even didn't Sabine also attend
Yeah, Sabine
as
attended
well?
the Rebel Academy or the Imperial
I don't know
Academy
if
as
she
well.
did the. I don't know if she went to the flight academy, but I think she went to the officer one.
Yeah, she was
I
in
could be
office.
wrong.
Yeah, weapons design and all that fun stuff.
I'd have to look that up before I quote it. But yeah,
Well, no, I feel like that's what happened a lot of the times. It's almost like with the Finn thing. That storyline is a lot of pilots. They kind of then saw how expendable they were and how the Empire threw things like planets and
well,
civilizations
some
away.
of them probably joined without knowing it was like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of them as young age, they probably saw a lot more of the Republic
Yeah.
side of things, and they probably saw the transition. Oh, we're taking normal people now, and we're policing the galaxy. So if you don't, know everything that goes on, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of it shocked a lot of planets when
Mm-hmm.
they did blow up Alderaan, because I honestly believe a lot of these outlying planets and all these planets probably didn't know any better. They
Yeah.
probably thought they were the same republic as before. Um, you know, minus their lack of voice on the Senate now, if they had the voice.
Right. No,
So
the
probably a lot of these groups probably didn't support the Rebel Alliance, so they probably thought they were the bad guys. I mean, we get that a lot with
yeah.
like with a lot of rebellious militaries in our world, and it really depends on what side of the history you're on to
Yes.
really know who's the good guy or the bad guy.
Right. Exactly. And it'll happen from 50 years ago. It happens today. It currently is happening. And it'll happen in the future. It's just a sad part of warfare that just follows humanity around. Uh, which that's one of the most interesting things too. Is that it's almost like with the rebel forces. Yes, they might have and they allow aliens, but they still and if it's through the movie spectrum, it's easier to have humans still because it's cheaper than
Yeah,
visual effects on every single creature out there. But it's still that means it's interesting to me to see how it's still people from Corellia, it's people from Alderaan or from Onderon or from Coruscant that are still seeing this and joining the rebellion. They're like, no, I'll give it all up, and they have to give up everything. I actually just finished the Catalyst book, which is a Rogue One novel. It's an awesome book, highly recommend it, and part of the Dyad book club. Uh, so it was really interesting to see how the Republic transitioned into an empire and how the empire treated people like Galen
yeah,
Erso, and why he eventually joins. Like you can see why his daughter then would become a rebel and join the rebels and hate the empire because they used that man horribly and like tried to make it
yeah,
sound like his research was going to save lives, but really all it was doing was creating the kyber crystal system for the Death Star.
yeah.
So it's like,
But we get to see a little bit of the treatment with the Han Solo movie
yeah,
as well. I really like the beginning with a lot of the Empire, so you kind of get to see a different side of things as well.
mm-hmm,
Because there's so much going on. Because if your only reference is a lot of the movies, most of the what you see, the Empire reaction or stormtroopers, occupying Tatooine and the
yeah,
stormtroopers on the Death Star. You don't really get to see how it affects. You kind of imagine it's the same thing, but you got to realize Tatooine's really far out there.
yeah,
So they may have a lot more stricter when it comes to military because it's they're kind of by themselves. Um, so I imagine or the conflicts of the planets like that don't initially take it. Uh, because the Republic originally they were taking planets in diplomacy wise.
Mm-hmm.
When you get into the Empire, they're no longer doing a diplomatic way of doing it because they want to take over control every planet. So we start seeing more invasions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's something we don't get to see too much and without the extra stuff like that.
Well, that'll be another thing that Andor I think is going to give us a lot of is the ground tactics for
Yeah.
the Rebel Alliance. Because we got to see a lot of their space stuff in the movies and things like that, but this will be the nitty gritty, like again, like with Rogue One, the Scarif scene, which a lot of people love. I love it. That the
Yeah.
Battle of Scarif is amazing, and
Well,
it'll be
there's so
really
many
cool.
iconic designs with
Hmm.
those troopers,
Oh yeah, the
and
shore troopers are so cool.
the beach invasion is really awesome stuff to
Yeah.
watch.
So if we get more stuff like that, but it's an entire series worth, oh, it's going to be awesome. So I look forward to the episodes that are just going to be
Yeah.
explosions and firing because it's again a part of the Rebels we don't get to see, and it is very nitty gritty and dirty, and like as much as Saw Gerrera might be hated, there are a lot of deaths that are going to come to the Rebels in these early years of the Empire, because in the early years of the Empire, the Rebels really have almost zero support. Like the planets haven't been
Yeah.
repressed yet, the people haven't been enslaved just yet. News hasn't gotten out to the bad things that are going on. So the right now everyone's just like, oh, cool. The Jedi try to do some weird stuff and they lost because that's one of the other crazy things. Like the Jedi become literally myths within 10 years.
Yeah.
Within like 10 years times, easy. The Jedi are just completely and utterly forgotten from the annals of time. And
Well,
so like the rebels
a
just
lot of
have to
them
fight.
were kind of mythological to begin with.
Yeah.
So wiping them out already, and then I'm sure you kind of already see that with Obi-Wan and stuff like that, where
Hmm.
they kind of wipe out any idea of the Jedi. Don't even speak about them. Don't even, and if you
Yeah.
do, you may get the Inquisitors. So kind of the whole idea of the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there was plenty neighbors. My neighbor's a Jedi. I saw him move that with his hand.
Right.
So, so I'm sure there was a lot of that. I'm sure so nobody wanted to speak about the Force or
Mm.
Jedi's. So that's also a very interesting thing is we see with the Rebel Alliance, even though they don't have Jedi's, they do the quote, may the Force be with you type.
Yeah.
So it's interesting they spout that when they have no official Jedi besides Luke.
Right. But
Um,
a lot of their generals are, like, you see it in the movies, they're very, very old. Like white
yes.
hair, like old generals and leaders. So, you know,
But I
oh,
imagine spouting that phrase is almost like a death sentence at this point.
right.
So
And that's just another thing that they do it for the rebellious kind of center around them. Uh, but yeah, these old men are probably still like sharing the few tales about how the Jedi saved so many lives. And if there are, especially if some of these clones have, actually, that'd be amazing. I really do hope we get to see in Bad Batch is like clones defecting. Because if clones defect, they would immediately go to the rebellions. Like I feel like they'd be drawn to it, and they would just tell them stories about like, no, the Jedi weren't like that. We were all being brainwashed. Like it was crazy, I wonder if that's happening because I hope they address that in Andor or in Bad Batch because it'd be
yeah, well,
amazing to see like,
they were starting to in Bad Batch.
yeah,
So yeah, so if we could expand upon at least with Bad Batch season 2, like you said,
yeah,
and we see Mon Mothma. I believe I saw her in the trailer,
yeah, Mon Mothma. She was in the trailer for Bad Batch season
which
two.
is she's kind of the head of their Rebel Alliance in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure she is she the highest rank
Yeah,
at this point. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
she was the main leader of it because she was and she's also like the first bigwig who steps away
Yeah.
from the Senate and announces herself as a rebellion leader,
So
which is what
so
kind of
that
kicks everything really off because that's like the
so
end
I
of the
wonder if
Rebel
we're gonna see
series.
a lot of her because we did see her in the trailer.
Yeah,
And she is a major figure. We kind of see her. We've seen her a couple here and there in
mm-hmm.
different shows. We see her in the movies, but we don't actually get to see her
Yeah,
too much.
I feel
She's
like,
usually very few lines or
mm-hmm.
small parts.
Which then that's what I feel like this could be really good for her and like let everyone like, oh yeah, she's earned her stripes. Not only is she just cool by name, but she's done some pretty awesome stuff and
Yeah,
really led the rebellion because, and like she doesn't have to. I don't need Mon Mothma out there with a blaster rifle shooting
no.
Imperials. Like that's not her character, and that's fine. I just want her to be like inspiring and uplifting, because again, that's what the whole rebellion has always like hope and inspiration, and to inspire hope in others. That's what the rebellions are built on, and that's what they say
What's
so many times.
to leave an organization like that? You don't really want a military leader. You want more of that charismatic beacon of hope
Mm-hmm.
almost. So and she kind of already is that. We never see her with any military regalia. We never see her with a blaster.
Yeah,
She almost is kind of this kind of like the way she dresses is almost kind of this kind of pure, almost regal
yeah.
in a sense.
White
It's
gowns,
all
always a
white
white
and
gown.
yeah.
So yeah, that's a
It's
good point.
so she kind of keeps her senator look, and she
Mm-hmm.
never gets really rid of that. Um, where I guess is the equivalent of wearing like a kind of like a suit or a formal dress, like a business type dress in our world. She's
Yeah,
kind of just going around and like, hey, I used to be a senator. I'm going to step out and use my name as a major senator, and I'm going to lead this. And she's not very hidden about it. So I wonder if she will be, helping Andor out a lot, or Andor kind of
yeah.
relates to her probably.
More than likely. I mean, again, for her to have been in the trailer, it would be weird for it to be like a super minimal role now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this will be really interesting to see too, because with it being so maybe early, or just the way it's going through the Imperial like reprogramming and propaganda systems and stuff. Like maybe we get to go to Ryloth, because I know that planet always gets hit really hard. Um, and I would love to just see more of the stormtroopers talking, or like the average person. Those little glimpses you get from like video games are like sometimes one of my favorite things. Like if you sneak up on two stormtroopers that are just talking, they're like, "Oh, did you hear about this new thing? Oh yeah, I know." Kind of makes me regret signing up sometimes. Oh, don't say that too loud. Someone will hear you.
Or it would be fun to hear some of the reference to the Ghost Crew from
Yeah.
Rebels,
Oh yeah,
because
that'd be awesome.
they've already been doing a lot of major stuff around this time already.
Yeah.
So they had to there had to be a name, sorry, especially when you get into the Rebel Alliance starting to form up. Because I think I could be wrong. I'm not for sure the exact date when this is supposed to be. I don't think the Rebel Alliance is a full organization yet. I still think it's kind
Yeah.
of being formed. So having you don't necessarily have to have them all show up
Yeah.
in this, but a reference would be kind of cool because they are a major part of the early rebellion. Because they kind of did it in the show.
Oh yeah. I
If you're
mean,
gonna do that,
like yeah,
you might as
Sabine's
well include it.
Sabine literally creates the symbol that is the rebellion, so that's always really cool. So like, I would love for them to be a Rebels tie-in in the Andor series. That would be awesome. And
Well,
I know
imagine,
we're because we're getting Hera regardless in the
yeah.
Ahsoka series.
Well, Harris
So
got to be pretty high up in the organization.
yeah, I think she becomes a commander towards like the actual once the rebellion really takes off.
Yeah.
She's a full-fledged commander.
Uh, I think they added her ship in the Ghost in um, one of the scenes. I don't remember what scene it was, but you guys see it with all the ships. I
I need to
forgot.
look into
It's
it.
like
I know that there's a ghost, or the ghost itself is in the sequels.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
there's the
added the
big fight
Ghost
scene
in
at
at
the
one
end. Yeah,
point.
yeah, there's the ghost. You see the ghost there. So she's still flying around her or her son.
Never upgrades. She really likes the Ghost a
She
lot.
really likes the ghost.
That's like a common thing. They kind of did that with Han Solo.
Oh, and yeah,
Um,
that happens. Like you can tell a lot with the rebellion. Like the key pilots in the rebellion often fly their own like unique vessel. There's like really it was only like Biggs and
I don't.
Anton and then
Did Biggs
Wedge.
have his own ship at the? I don't think Biggs
No,
had a ship.
they only that's what I was saying is Biggs, uh, Anton Merrick, and then Wedge and stuff. They were just X-wing pilots. They weren't really known for anything else. But like most of the other people have like a show about them or are in the
Yeah,
original cast, so that puts them on like a different pedestal. They get
that's
their own special
that's
ship.
well, I believe if I remember correctly, I believe Wedge is one of the reasons why Luke wanted to, because he
Mm,
initially wanted to go to Imperial Flight Academy
yeah.
because he wanted to be a pilot.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that might be one of the few places you could actually learn to fly. Uh,
Right. And I know he
I'm
looked up the
assuming,
Wedge and Tilly stuff. Biggs was his friend in Tatooine. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Biggs was like his best friend
They would bullseye Womp
growing
Rats in
up.
his
Yeah.
land speeder. Which I mean,
So
yeah,
I'm
that's those Skyhoppers. You see one of them in the later, like in the comics and stuff. You get to see the Skyhopper, and you're like, okay, yeah. If you're like bullseyeing tiny rodents with that unstable thing, I'm sure you're a great pilot. That
yeah, it's
trench
just
run,
your.
that trench run is so iconic. Watching the X-wings, as they're kind of getting taken out as
I know
everything
it's cool.
happens.
I always feel it's weird. They like wind way back up from the
Yeah,
trench. It's just it seems kind of counterproductive to drive that far. I mean, sure, there's a reason, but it looks cool. I can't deny
right. It's
that.
like for one, it looks really cool, and I guess to me the best way I could think about it is like you don't want to be outside of the edge too much because there's probably more turrets from the Death Star on that side. So it's like the least amount of turrets are actually inside the ravine, maybe.
I
Less
mean, they
less TIE
eventually
fighter
gotta have it
pilots.
straight, but they
Yeah,
kind of start real. It seems because how fast those ships fly, it almost seems like I would like to see the math. I'm sure somebody's already done it
oh yeah,
based on the initial trench run and figure out where on the desk or they started and like follow that line. Because it almost feels like they started on the opposite side and
right.
just go. Because those ships are fast,
And they're booking it.
so
Yeah, they're going.
it's one continuous flight, and you just see. So I wonder if it's like there's a big chunk of where they start on the Death Star and they're just flying. And I
Getting
wonder
shot down.
it's gotta be very silly almost. But
Right.
like I said, it's tension and it's a
Mm-hmm.
cool fight. It's very iconic. I mean, that's one of the major scenes that you often see parodied or quoted
Yeah.
in other shows and things like that. So
Have you been watching the ILM documentary stuff on Disney Plus yet?
I have not. No.
We've watched one of the first episodes. It's so good. I highly
Oh yeah,
recommend it because that's another part of the Rebels is like how amazing so many key things that happened in the Rebel Alliance were literally thrown together by these amazing
yeah.
creative geniuses at the last second. They were just like, we need this and this. Okay, take this and we're gonna take this. I'll still always love it, like the Woodrow Wilson thing where the dude is running around with an ice cream maker because he was told just to grab a prop and go like
And
that.
now it's finally got official like
Yep,
what it does.
is
Well, you can
officially.
buy it. You can
Yeah,
buy it now,
yep, you
which
can buy
is
those things. They're expensive,
yeah.
and they're usually out of stock. But yeah, that's one of the other things is that the rebels did they were the good guys that didn't have to act holier than thou. They were just normal people who weren't going to put up with it anymore. And again, that I feel like that changed a lot of cinema afterwards because the good guys stopped becoming this bastion of hope, this bastion. They were like, no, the good guy is this ragtag group, and like a really, to me, like, looking through cinema, like that Star Wars really started this era of the everybody's hero.
Well, a lot of this, you were seeing a lot of the cinema at this time. You saw a lot of law enforcement, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of almost military style good guys. A lot of them were soldiers, or they're like, you get your westerns.
Yeah,
A lot of them were cowboys. So you didn't see a lot of like, you could be the hero type deal very often
yeah,
in cinema at that time. And also, sci-fi was already this kind of weird situation as well. So it was very. It's so one thing I find so surprising, and I guess it was iconic for its time. There was no introduction to Star Wars. It
mm-hmm.
just, hey guys, this is Star Wars. We're gonna throw you in the middle of the galaxy. This is the bad guy that looks like this sci-fi samurai, the red laser sword, and he chokes people. And he's got these white soldiers that were on this same armor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just very interesting because we have other sci-fis like Dune and stuff like that at that time, and to see how successful stuff like that happens. I honestly, I don't know if it would, but how we do things now,
Yeah,
we almost have to have this kind of introduction of like how this came to be,
right.
or you don't see too many drop that just throws you in the middle of a world and this is what you expect.
People demand a
So
lot of backstory.
yeah. So I mean, we love the backstory,
Right.
and I love. Yeah, but
But like we love Star Wars' backstory because we fell in love with Star Wars and then found out, oh, there's more.
and it mixes a lot of things up. I mean, like I said, you see similar stuff with like Dune and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but um, they really changed a lot. But they kind of kept some things to home. I mean, you see a
Right.
lot of parallels with the Empire, with a group in our history. I mean, they share Stormtrooper that
Right.
is a type of soldier in our history. So you get the idea immediately. Hey, these guys are the bad guys right away, and these guys are struggling to be the good guys and try to stop, the big, over-encompassing evil.
Right.
And they add in a kind of this idea of like magic and mystery with the Force, with Darth Vader, how he's able to choke someone out without touching them. Um, you get this kind of this mystery with the because you can't see any of the bad guys' faces minus
Right.
the officers, and then you get these exotic alien species often on this distant planet. Um, and it's this farmer kid that starts from nowhere. We don't know anything special about. We don't know anything special about him until the very end of the third movie.
Right.
Um, so at that time, so many kids were so excited that they got to be, I could be a Jedi.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. I could be Luke Skywalker.
I could be that hero that gets that random, you know, an old man shows me, hey, look, you can have this stick that looks like a flashlight, and you can
Don't
fight with it.
look. Don't look directly down it though. Oh, what's this?
First thing he does when he gets handed a
Yep.
lightsaber.
It just stares directly down
I mean, it's realistic.
it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how many people have seen. I've been being in military and law enforcement. I've seen so many people that will look into the end of barrel of a gun. So people do that, and people do that with knives. People do that. I mean, you've seen it with
Is it sharp?
swords.
Yeah, right. Is it sharp? Ah, yeah. Fucking yes.
We do when we show people swords with our historical we have a group that we teach history with weapons, and the first thing a lot of people do is they grab the blade.
Yeah, they go right for the blade every single time, and he's like, "Well, hey, hey." Aside from the fact that skin is evil to metal, stop. It's a sword, and they immediately just want to swing it around. And if it was a
So
lightsaber, like that's the thing. If
yes, so you wonder
95% of people, if 95% of people were given a lightsaber, they would lose limbs.
yeah, I can see why lightsabers never really caught on. Not only probably because they're rare and hard to make, but also because it's glowy and cool, and you know
hmm
our instincts are I want to touch it.
Well, that's one of the things with Catalyst and this early rebellion to Empire, like what the Empire talks about, is how the Jedi had actual like trade embargoes and stuff on kyber crystals. Like it was essentially only supposed to be done through Jedi Council orders and with the Jedi Council like maintaining the dig. Um, so like once the Jedi were all gone, the Empire used that as like, look what these naughty evil Jedi were doing. They were keeping the most amazing power sources away from us, and they were using the kyber crystals to power so many things, like their giant death ray. But it's like it's awesome the things that they spun to
Look at this technology we
placate.
could use to benefit your life
But no,
as we make a giant
yeah,
planet destroying weapon.
that then just becomes other planet destroying weapons as the movies continue.
Yeah.
They get smaller and smaller. That's really Palpatine's ultimate plan, was just to create like a little pin you could just blow a planet up with, and then he'd be invincible. But
Well, his
planet,
ultimate plan was more of trying to prolong his life.
yeah,
Yeah.
we see how that works out. Um, I feel like one of the main things though with the rebellion and like the rebellion age is it's just so classical and beautiful, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy that that is what George. I'm happy though that is what George started with though, because I feel like had he started with the prequels, which he said he didn't because he didn't have the right technology to make them, so he didn't feel like he should. But that was the correct move. Putting this amazing piece of cinema out and then doing the prequel and then like later sequels. But that original stuff, it was perfect for that time period, and it hit so amazing that it made it this huge thing. But it also, like, just to me, as someone who watched it in the '90s, it still hits so good, and it makes you
Yeah,
just feel like that could happen to you, and that
I
like
can't imagine
hometown.
episode 1 coming out, and even if they did somehow remake some of it, I
Mm,
can't see that hitting with audiences at that time.
right. No, this had that. Episode 3 has that nitty, or 4 has that nitty gritty war. I mean, Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen are charred skeletons, and that's pretty early on. Like, we see the Empire do some heinous stuff in the beginning of A New Hope.
And I think Luke, out of the three, I guess you can see. I don't know. Ray's kind of hard to do
Yeah.
to pinpoint, but I think out of the three, I think Luke's probably one of the easiest to relate to,
Mm-hmm.
because he's just a country boy, living with his aunt and uncle.
A whiny country boy. Like, he's not
Yeah,
even like the badass. He's not like
yeah.
he's not a hardcore cool guy. He's just a
Not,
dude.
not say anything bad as Ray, but she's kind of this orphan on this planet. She's scavenging. There's
Mm-hmm.
not many people nowadays that are living like that would watch Star Wars and that
Yeah.
are. And then you get to Anakin. He's kind of hard to relate to as well.
Being the
I mean,
chosen one, and yeah.
well, being a slave boy that
Yeah.
had no father, somehow is really really powerful and all this stuff. It's just Luke kind of has that whole mix of, like I said, it fits with more demographics, especially at that time.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, the it was timed perfectly. It really helped, I think, with everything gaining steam the way that it did. Uh, the Empire was always, and they really did capture like making the Empire look like the bad guys more so than like the Sith are evil. No, like, but the Empire, you could tell it's like, no,
yeah.
this is evil people.
Well, the music,
Mm-hmm.
the lighting. I mean, they 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 did everything but spell it out for you. They
Right.
looked evil.
Their bases were
They
these cold, desolate places, while you look at the rebel bases, they were always in the middle of jungles, lush and vibrant. So they played a lot of really good, iconic, like, visual tricks to make people understand the rebels versus the Empire. I mean, the Hoth battle scene. The rebel fleets there are still like, it's all white, but
well,
they still look so
and
ragtag.
they're using animals instead of
Yep, yep,
vehicles.
animal mounts.
So they're, and then when you get an Endor, they don't they even though at this time the Empire is based on a force,
Yeah.
but the rebels show up and they make friends with the native population instead of
Mm-hmm.
killing them.
Yep.
And they're using nature to fight off because they're making these traps out of trees. So they're using nature and kind of Vietnam warfare tactics to
Yeah.
kill the evil empire. And then the biggest thing, like I said, is you don't see any of their faces, so
Yeah.
there's no emotion tied to any of the stormtroopers.
Right.
And Darth Vader's the epitome of, like, this is the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the big cape. He's got the big appearance. He's huge. The guy that played him was very tall.
Yeah.
Um, the in person Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Was
The
and then
Scottish man. Yeah.
and James Earl Jones' voice is very daunting.
Very, very. Yeah.
So I mean, and then if it did spell it out for you, he's got a red lightsaber. So
I love it how even like George says it. He's like, no, yeah, the good guys are Bleen and Bleen. Yeah, Bleen. That's what you get when you have green and blue. But yeah, the good guys are always green and blue, and the red guys are bad, and that's how you know good is good and bad is bad. Which didn't always confuse me though, because the rebel fighters and the rebel ships always fired
yeah,
red lasers, and the Empire fighters green lasers. So when they're in their
yeah.
ships, I was like, oh well, it's reversed. The ships also sound a little cooler on the rebel side, cause like it makes sense
I
because
don't
like a
know.
lot of
The TIE fighter sounds so iconic.
oh, but it says Scream, but it is iconic. It's definitely iconic. Like, it's known. But to me, like, in the ILM thing, they kind of talk about it. They're like, well, yeah, we had like a few days to design all these Rebel ships, like the Y wing and the B wing, the A wing. Which that's another thing I liked about the Rebel fleet. It was different. It had different ships
Yeah.
in it. They didn't all look alike. But it was supposed to literally be like hot rodders. Like, yeah, the TIE fighters and the cruisers are like the sleek Cadillac. So what we're gonna do with the Rebel fighters is they're gonna look like a hot rod. So that's why like they always have like they have like exposed engine parts a lot more of the time you see, and they have like a lot more like open large parts of them like the Y wing.
Well, they almost look more, like I said, they're more standard, more military, so that you
Mm-hmm.
could tell they belong to a military, and you get to almost a rich design with the exposed engine and stuff. And you get
Yeah.
to the TIE fighters, they look like they were almost salvaged and modded a bunch based on each individual pilots. Well, you get into the Empire, they have to keep their all the same.
Yeah.
And you get that with the helmets, with the Rebels helmets. They all
Mm-hmm.
have each individual painting. You get to see the kill the
Yep.
kill marks on here, but you don't get to, which is really synonymous with our modern day pilot design helmet.
Yeah.
A lot of them will have
Right.
their own, be able to paint. As a tank crewman, when I was in the military, we got to paint our own helmets most of the time. We got to put kind of a symbol to represent us. We get to paint a name on the tank. We need to fully customize vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
so and that's kind of the idea of the military. Everything's got to be uniform. Everything's got to be this, the big entity. Whereas again, the rebels getting a lot more personality,
Yeah.
and that's one thing I love about seeing the rebels is I like to see all the different cool designs. I like to
Mm-hmm.
see all the different. I really love the pilot helmets. I like to
Yeah.
see what the individual pilot did, why they did it. One of my favorites is I really like Biggs. You don't get to see his
Mm-hmm.
very much.
Trapper Wolf looks really cool. I was really excited with Murdoch, whatever it is. Yeah, but yeah, with the
I know what you're
blue,
talking about. Yeah.
yeah, blue company, blue squadron leader from Rogue One.
So yeah, it's cool. You get to see that, and you get the idea of like these guys each have a personality. So care about these guys, but don't care
Yeah,
about these guys that are a dime a dozen,
right.
because they're the bad guys. So you don't, and you get that when you get back into the Clone Wars, you get to see the clones customizing
Yeah,
themselves. You get to see personalities. Hey, even though you don't get to see their face, care about them. They got personalities. They got
yeah.
different markings on their helmets, just like this. Um, but you don't really see that in the droids because they don't have a personality. So you don't,
Mm-hmm.
so it's he did a really well job, and like I said, I love um, the Rebel ship design. It was really fun.
Yeah.
And when they did what's the X-wing board game series? I think it's called X-wing.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like, yeah, X-wing squadrons and stuff. Yeah.
Well, the figures.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for a while, and I really love the design on them. They did really well. All the different because they explored a lot of the different ships. It's a
Yeah.
fun game if you ever get to play. I have it quite a bit. So next time you come down, we'll have to play or something.
Sounds good.
So I have enough for two people. But one of my favorite thing to do with those, I'm a terrible painter, but would be I have a couple of custom painted ships.
Okay.
I really enjoyed because the whole idea of the rebels, they get their little custom paint job here and
Mm-hmm.
there, and so the whole idea of the hot rod is just it's so iconic.
Yeah, exactly. And like with the like you said, like with the clone troopers, what they would do is like they would on their LAATs, they would put the like a pinup girl almost like those old school dog fighters that would have in World War II. And I'm sure
Well,
the
there's
X wings had them. I guarantee it that
There's
they
the
did that.
one squadron that did the World War II, the shark mouth design. I don't
Yes,
remember which squadron it is that did that as well. So they did, yeah.
yeah. I've always
The
loved
the
the.
lot more unique clone
Mm-hmm.
troopers.
Yeah, some of the clone troopers went really far with their stuff, which it happens in the Rebel Alliance too. Even when you're playing on Battlefront 2, though, it's fun because if you're a Imperial heavy gunner, okay, well you can either have a black pauldron because you're a sergeant, or you're a normal stormtrooper, or a snow trooper, or a shore trooper. That's it. You're a trooper. But if you're on the rebel side, like, oh, you can be a Zabrak, you can be a Weegway, you can be a human of any race or gender. Like it's so cool. Like again, the rebels like they don't they don't only show personality, they have personality. Like they understand like no, we have to work with the downtrodden because that's who we are. Those are the people who are getting, excuse me, the most ruined by the Empire. And it's a beautiful story because really like in a lot of interviews George Lucas talks about how he kind of thought Star Wars was going to be about the rebellion and the Empire, and the Force and the Space Wizards was going to kind of be a fun little side thing. But people just latched on to the Jedi and the Sith and the Force, but there's still always this awesome wartime story that takes place in Star Wars. That's the name, Star Wars. So it's really really cool to like always have this constant like galactic scale issue that makes the Jedi issue like important, and that's why we need the Jedi, and they have to fight the Sith because the Sith are always tied into it somehow. But it gives this really beautiful sense of like there's a reason the Jedi need to exist to serve the Republic, as much as it was their downfall and like kind of killed them in the end. They do go hand in hand, like this sense of hope, this sense of everybody. But if nothing else, at least the rebellion didn't like they had Jedi, and the canon sources we have some Jedi that were helping out the rebellion a little bit, but it wasn't as much as when like the Clone Wars, like they weren't
Oh
generals
no.
fighting wars because
They weren't outnumbering because
yeah
if you count the Inquisitors, even the even though I don't think they're technically considered Sith, but with
right
the Inquisitors and you at the time you still outnumbered the Jedi.
yeah
At least that we know exist. And even if we count all of them, um, I'm pretty sure it would be because the Inquisitors, that was their whole job, was to get rid of the Jedi.
Oh yeah, it's a crazy. One of my favorite things that my wife pointed out in Kenobi is when you look at that hall room where they all talk. There's this red thing that goes around the entire room, and it's just filled with lightsabers that we assume the Inquisitors killed of each like Jedi. So they've already taken down a lot of Jedi. So it's really interesting to see that. But man, the rebellion, at least they can hold their own. They didn't need a Jedi to get as far as they got. It just it helped. The Force was like, here's your here's Luke Skywalker for you, who doesn't even become a general himself. It's really only Leia who fully dives into the military aspect.
Yeah, because Luke kind of goes on the fact, because he was taught by Obi-Wan, so he goes off and Yoda.
Yeah.
I think, well, honestly, a lot of pull comes from Yoda because he gets a bit more training with Yoda,
Right.
about the idea of the peace of the Force. So, and you see that in the last movie, how he carries himself, which is a lot different from any of the others. He's no longer the whiny kid.
Yeah.
He's very stoic. He's very, he shows up to Jabba's palace. He's like, hey, let my friends go. And he's like, Jabba laughs. They all laugh, and he's like, okay, let's do this thing.
Yeah, he's not afraid to play.
And then afterwards, he's all about restarting the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
He's trying to start his own temple, and then we get into the new movies. Because we find out how well that goes. Apparently, it doesn't go very well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, and that's just because he doesn't have the foresight of the years, and he's also, and some of the Yoda's teachings are great, but you kind of need multiple voices to go with Yoda's.
Yeah, you need a Qui-Gon Jinn for every Yoda.
Because you get the Anakin, you get the other, the ones that are very susceptible to the dark side.
Yeah.
And you can't just say, don't listen to the dark side. You gotta eventually gotta stop.
Right.
You can't make another Ben Solo situation.
Right.
Which I think honestly that's his biggest downfall, is because he doesn't have experience with that kind of that idea, and I guess he thinks that they're all going to be like him.
Right. Exactly.
They're gonna embrace the Force like he did. So.
And during this time, though, again, the Republic doesn't need the Jedi. They don't. They use them a bit in the New Republic, but it's not a thing. They're busy doing their own thing. They move. After Palpatine dies and the New Republic takes over, they don't even go to Coruscant. The Coruscant becomes no longer the galactic seat, so it moves to the set of planets that are destroyed in the sequels.
Yeah.
But it's crazy.
Well, he doesn't even. He puts it on. He kind of does the whole seclusion idea.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to the idea of the monk aspect of kind of the Shaolin monk idea, where you kind of separate yourself, and which that's not for everybody. So
yeah, and that leaves the rebellion to really pick up the pieces, become the New Republic, and try to rein in all of this galaxy that's now been kind of decimated by this empire that expanded farther than the empire had ever planned on, with the way it ruled and controlled everything.
And some of this
made it really hard.
Still around.
Yeah,
some of them are still around.
Yep, there are still a lot of places that you have the remnant.
A lot in the Mandalorian series shows you that, and like I said, I love that they shows you that there's still kind of TARFs that are leading, or Moffs that are leading, that are leading these groups, because they're just because the army's the organization's gone. I'm still a general, and we still got this army and all this equipment. Let's keep it going, and then you get to like. Where you get the X-wing, when he's flying down with his ship, you get these X-wings showing up. Hey man, we're just gonna check your ship out.
Yep.
So you see them trying to police, but it's a way different compared to how the Empire used to do it. Even on Tatooine, how the Empire was controlling you scan ships coming in, it was all really reinforced, and that was them spread out.
Right.
So to see the Rebel Alliance only have a couple X-wings and almost like a police traffic stop.
Yeah.
And you could see the perspective that they really spread thin, and they can, doing what the best they can, what people are willing to do it, because you can tell that, these guys they want to do the job, but, like they said, they don't even chase after them, like, we can't do anything.
Right. Yeah, we're just going to waste fuel going to that guy. You want to do the paperwork? I don't want to do the paperwork.
So, yeah, you see where it's a lot more, the personnel's way different, so you see they struggled, and then I guess they get overwhelmed when the First Order comes back up. So.
And that's a beautiful way to kind of start wrapping things up then, because as that is then the death of the rebellion, they then become the resistance, where they rebelled against the evil. Now they simply are trying to resist it, and the resistance has its own sets of difficulties and things to overcome.
Oh yeah.
So we'll save that for a different conversation. Thank you all so much for joining us. Don't forget, it is every Friday night, 5:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. YouTube, Spotify, and Anchor. Of course, Spotify and Anchor are audio only. And YouTube will be the fun video-ness. Leave a comment who your favorite Rebel pilot or just Rebellion leader is down below. We'd love to hear that. And maybe talk about one of your favorite Imperial people. Give us some talking points for when we do our Imperial podcast. So, again, we'll look forward to seeing you all next Friday. And may the Force serve you well.
May the Force be with you.